The golden age of Ayodhya had run its course. The era was taking its final breath, and standing at the city gates was Yamraj, the god of death, carrying the inevitable message for Lord Rama. Death could not cross the threshold. There were no armies or mystical barriers blocking the way. There was only Hanuman. The ultimate devotee had transformed into an immovable force, vowing that no harm would touch his king. The entire universe stalled. Time required Lord Rama to shed his mortal form to move forward, but Rama sat quietly on his throne. He knew his greatest protector had become his greatest obstacle, and he would never raise a weapon against someone acting out of pure love. This absolute devotion created a barrier for everyone. Hanuman stood fixed on a single point in history, unable to see that the universe was demanding a necessary transition. To break this celestial deadlock, Rama couldn't use force. He opted for a subtle distraction. While speaking casually in the royal court, Rama allowed his royal signet ring to slide off his finger. The heavy gold clattered against the marble, rolled toward a tiny, almost invisible fissure in the floor, and vanished into the dark. Hanuman reacted instantly. A spoken word or a silent gesture from his lord was the absolute law of the cosmos. In a fraction of a second, he compressed his towering form down to the size of a honeybee and dove into the crack to retrieve the lost gold. This simple task of retrieving a ring pulled him through the gateway of a vastly different existence. The familiar stone of the palace floor began to recede as he entered the dark void beneath the world. The crack didn't end at the palace foundations. Hanuman kept falling. He drifted past the bedrock, through deep subterranean stone, completely leaving the human world behind. He finally landed in Naglok, the ancient underground kingdom of serpents. There was no sunlight here. The massive, silent caverns were lit entirely by the divine glow of jewels embedded in the hoods of giant snakes. At the center of it all rested Vasuki, the king of serpents. His large, unblinking eyes held the quiet exhaustion of someone who had watched countless epochs rise and fall. Gripping his tiny mace, Hanuman announced he was on a mission to retrieve his lord's ring. Vasuki didn't ask who Rama was. He simply lowered his massive head and pointed silently toward the center of the dark cavern. The journey from a tiny crevice to this subterranean empire forced a new perspective. The cavern's scale dwarfed the palace above, and the coming truth would prove just as massive. Rising out of the shadows was a colossal, shimmering mountain. As Hanuman climbed the steep golden slope, he realized the terrain wasn't made of stone or even coins. The entire mountain was a massive hoard of royal rings. He picked one up. It bore the Sun Dynasty crest. Engraved on the band was the name Shri Ram. He reached down and scooped up a handful. Every single ring in the pile of millions was an exact, perfect duplicate. Vasuki explained that time is an endlessly repeating wheel. Inside every rotation, the epic plays out exactly the same. A Rama is born, rules, and a Hanuman guards the door so fiercely his king must drop a ring to distract him. Hanuman's grief, which felt like the singular tragedy of his life, exists as one of a billion identical echoes. He belongs to a chorus that has been singing the same song for an eternity. Hanuman stood frozen on the golden slope, holding one ring, looking out over millions of identical copies. There was no way to identify which one belonged to his specific Rama. A new realization took hold as he stared at the gold. Rama dropped the ring with precision. This entire retrieval was a staged lesson for his devotee. By showing Hanuman the weight of infinite time, Rama was teaching him to let go. Clinging to a physical form is like trying to stop a flowing river with bare hands. The cycle of the universe requires that things must eventually pass. Hanuman uncurled his fingers. He accepted the release, allowing his specific ring to fall back into the sea of millions. Wisdom acknowledges that devotion reaches its peak in the act of letting go. Every form, no matter how beloved, must eventually return to the cycle. Hanuman turned his back on the mountain and began the long ascent. He climbed out of the fissure in the palace floor, his body expanding back to its towering size. The grand hall was completely empty. Lord Rama's throne sat entirely vacant. There was no roar of anger. He didn't tear the palace down in a fit of grief. Instead, he stood in the quiet room and felt a deep, profound peace. He had spent a lifetime guarding a temporary interval in the river of time. The empty throne signaled that the water had finally moved on. We are all small parts of a grand cycle that outlasts our deepest attachments. Endings are the necessary turning of an infinite wheel.